Hello, welcome to the Infinity Stone podcast. I am your host, Matt. With me, as always, is Andy, and this week we are discussing X2, X-Men United. That's the full title. I'm not making that up. But before we get into that, Andy, there's some news in the MCU, and I think we want to kind of talk about it a bit. So, the big news is that Disney might have lost Spider-Man or might not have. It seems to be debated. So what are you feeling about this?
I mean, the news is that they have. That's the story that they are going with. Whether or not we believe that that's what the story will be forever is, something we could discuss. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when James Gunn was fired from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And now that's not the case. But moreover, it's like, so if this is the case, if we'll get into whether we think this is always going to be what it is, but presuming that this is what's going to happen, that no more Spider-Man in the MCU and no more MCU in the Spider-Man movies. I'll say it kind of sucks. That's kind of my big thing. Honestly, it sucks for a very simple reason. Some people are getting into it's like, well, how is the MCU going to deal with not having Spider-Man? And we'll get into that. Or, what's Spider-Man even going to be like if he doesn't have, a Stark costume or, Shield? But more, it's just like Marvel has proven that they can make good Spider-Man movies, and Sony has not.
Or at least not in a very long time.
Not for a very long time, and also with the caveat, live action Spider-Man.
Right.
Because they've also...
Because I think we'd both agree that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a very good Spider-Man movie.
Probably the best Spider-Man movie that's ever been made. But I don't get the sense that the people that are doing that are the people that are making Venom and Morbius the Living Vampire.
Right.
So that's what sucks. It's that they were making Spider-Man movies that I really enjoy. And if this thing continues, they probably won't be.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what we, it's pretty obvious that the headline, the news, was leaked by Disney to give them leverage in terms of negotiating, because Sony immediately was like, that's not what we thought was happening. Which is, if they were like actually reclaiming Spider-Man and being like, no, you can't use him anymore, I think they'd be a little more definitive about that. But
they'd be like, we have this whole plan for Spider-Man and
exactly
and all that, and we're really excited about it. Yeah.
But there's still like a lot of other questions. Like, one thing that was suggested was that Tom Holland would still be playing him, and then there's some people that's like, well, would he really, or is he under contract to Disney? And it's a great question, because one of the things I like about this incarnation of Spider-Man is Tom Holland's interpretation of him and his acting. And I think that he brings something to it. I guess another question would be, is it the same director? It's been, John Watts.
Yep, Watts.
Yeah,
yes.
I couldn't remember if there was an S on his name, but he's also had similar writers on the first one. And while they had like these two guys that do punch up in all the Marvel movies on the second one, I don't think they were there in the first. But so then would those writers also be on it still? So, are those guys tied to Disney? Are they following the property? How, and then it's just how involved is production from on top with Disney and Feige and all that, versus like how much is the actual director's decisions. I mean, I think we know that there is a lot of control, especially in terms of like action sequences and stuff like that. So if Sony did take them back but left the creative team in place, would the writing still sound the same, or would it, and just like the action would look different? I don't know. There's a lot of questions like that about it too.
Now, to answer some of those questions, yes, Tom Holland is under contract with Sony for 2 films.
Yeah.
Now, there's some question what that means. Is that, 2 standalone Spider-Man films, or if they decide to throw him in Venom 2, does that, eat up part of the contract?
Right.
Honestly, my assumption would be that. But if that's the case, Sony would be stupid to throw him into Venom 2 without at least getting 1 Spider-Man movie out of him. The director, that's been an open question that hasn't been answered, whether Watts was still under contract, if his contract moves over or not. And then, so the big thing is that, Feige would not be involved. It sounds like Feige was not just, really involved in the two, Spider-Man movies. Sounds like he's had little secret input in some of the other movies that have had. He had a few things to say about, in Into the Spider-Verse or Venom
Yeah.
even. And that's not going to happen if this is the way this is.
Right.
Now, look, so the writers, the directors, the stars, maybe they have a template. So, there's some idea. It's like they could, at least finish this, like a third movie. And there's an argument to be made for that. The counter, I would say, is Sony originally made 2 Spider-Man movies with the same cast and writer and directors, and they still managed to screw up a third one before. So let's not say that just because they got all these other pieces except for Marvel that they won't screw this up. And again, that's where I keep coming back to. It's not that I'm blindly loyal to one corporate entity over another, although I want to get into that a bit. It's that I like watching good movies, and this one company has proven very consistently that they will produce a quality product, and this other company has not proven that at all. In fact, they've proven the opposite more often than not, especially in recent years, which is why we were in this situation to begin with, right? And I think I even kind of discussed this a bit with Venom. It's like, that I was like almost nervous that like all the money that Venom made, which should be noted was largely overseas, is making Sony like get their heads too big. And that's why all of a sudden they're resurrecting Sinister Six ideas and Silver and Black and Morbius. And they're like, what if they just think that they can start making Spider-Man movies again? Maybe that's why we're here. Now, when this news came out, obviously the first rush amongst fans was to just completely blame Sony in kind of the way I just was. Their head got too big for them.
Sure.
And now other people, then this comes back and more of the details of the negotiations, and there was like, no, this is just Disney trying to own everything. And it's like, maybe. But when I look at it from like just a business standpoint, I kind of agree with both parties in some ways, because Disney's right. This was not worth their time if all they were getting out of this was 5%.
Yeah.
Like Kevin Feige and Marvel have proven they can make $1 billion off of like Black Panther or near that much off of Captain Marvel. They don't really need Spider-Man to be making money. And
so but are they paying any of the costs for those Spider-Man movies, or is Sony paying those costs?
It sounds like they were paying the 5%. So from that perspective, but if it's making $1 billion and it costs $200 million to make, Disney's profit is like $50 million or something like that. That's not worth any of their time. Like the time and the worth for it was, we need to repair the brand image of Spider-Man because this guy is very important to all our lines of business.
Yes.
We're not selling enough lunch boxes and bed sheets and T-shirts when you've got, grumpy Andrew Garfield out there. So just from that perspective, it's like, we just need to fix this. Well, they fixed it. We have a new generation of kids that already love Spider-Man. So to come in and say, okay, we're going to do it again. We're going to take time out of our calendar and put probably the most successful producer in the history of movies. And it's weird to say that, but it's probably true. And we'll do that for $50 million. But on the Sony side, if Disney's asking for 50%, it's like
without putting up 50% of the cost.
I think part of it was that they would go into a 50% agreement, right?
Yeah.
From what I understand. Plus, Disney gets 100% of the merchandising, so it's not just $50 million. And obviously, that goes into what I was saying. Merchandise isn't selling as well when Sony's making bad movies. But so from there, it's like 50%. Like, okay, this is our first $1 billion movie ever. Obviously, making the movies with you brings more money in, but we were still doing $800 million with these Andrew Garfield garbage. So, if we're giving $600 million to you, we could just make that money even if it's not good.
Right.
Venom proved that.
Right. I mean, and then I think you got to consider that Disney also gains a benefit from the fact they can use Spider-Man in their own team-up movies. Though,
which is nice. But you look at the slate of what's been announced.
Yeah.
There's no spot for Spider-Man in any of those films, right?
Well, yes.
Like you could shoehorn him into Doctor Strange. Now, it should be noted, and we'll kind of get into the other non-Spider-Man news after this, but I don't think that's all the movies that are going to come out in the next 3
No,
years.
me neither.
I don't think if Disney finally decided, you know what, two a year, that's enough. We don't want to flood the market or anything. But yeah, it's just like Disney clearly has a plan that doesn't need Spider-Man in the short term.
Right.
Moreover, like as I said, they can make billion-dollar characters out of a lot of these guys.
Yep.
They also have 2 properties ready off the bench that could just take that spot. They're like, because like a lot of people were saying, oh, well, what's Spider-Man? What are Marvel going to do? They were setting Spider-Man up to take over and be the center point of the franchise, like Tony Stark. It's like, well, yeah, in his movie, but I don't know if that's true in the rest of the movies. So I think, and that's the question actually for you: who needs this collaboration more? And establishing that maybe none of them needed at the price point that they were negotiating at. But does Disney need Spider-Man more, or does Sony need Marvel more?
I think Sony needs Marvel more. And I think it's pretty obviously so, which is, I think, why they demanded a greater cut of the profits, because they know that. And as you said, it's not worth it for them at 5%. Now, the 50, as you said, is completely ridiculous. But Sony does need them. And Sony, but what they don't need them to do is just make money. But they do need Marvel as like kind of a brand ambassador, because they get to fold into something which is more popular than their own universe. Mm-hmm. They need them as kind of a quality control, because again, they have just proven to be a little better at this than Sony usually is. And so for that reason, it doesn't make sense to divorce if what Marvel's really seeking is like 20%, which is why I think this will end with him staying in the universe and like everyone kind of cheering it on, and the deal just being like Marvel gets a bigger cut.
Yeah, and I agree that, like, especially when you stop to think about it, and like the numbers that I was kicking out,
right?
If they're still doing 800 million with bad movies, then what's the incentive for going 50%? That if 50% sounds crazy, but one little note is like it sounds crazy because we know now that they were only doing 5. If this was always the agreement, like all we really knew before this is they were sharing,
right?
If they had told me, it's a 50-50 type of arrangement, I would have been like, yeah, I guess that makes sense. If one company's actually making the whole movie and the other one's just, owning the license and putting up some money, and then like, okay, I guess 50%. Now, when you stop and think of like the numbers, I do agree. When you go from 5 to 50, that's a lot. But yeah, it would suck with Disney not having Spider-Man theatrically, because I do believe they own the television rights, because like they have a cartoon called Disney's Spider-Man or whatever.
So would they immediately launch a live action show on Disney Plus with like
I wonder if it extends to that, or if it's like you can make animated shows or something.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it's like I feel for Disney, Spider-Man is a nice to have. It's nice to have everything in. It's nice to make these movies, but yeah, like they've proven that they can make money with anybody, and like they still have the X-Men, who could make more. Like that's a $1 billion franchise right there. They already have another $1 billion franchise with Black Panther. If they play their cards right, Fantastic Four could be a $1 billion franchise. And that might sound funny because their movies have all tanked, and they haven't been a huge name in years. But I mean, Iron Man was a $1 billion franchise, and as we discussed when this podcast started, that was no sure thing. He was a B-lister at best. So yeah, whereas Sony, this all they got is this Spider-Man universe, and I don't think it will take long to show that doesn't mean much if people don't like Spider-Man.
I agree.
And the reason why they get to make over $1 billion with Far From Home is Homecoming was well received. But it's because it's coming 2 months after the biggest movie in the history of movies, and which your character was a part of, and that gets into the
and everyone wants to see what's happening next.
Yeah, whereas if that's divorced, it might not be the same thing.
Nope.
And the last thing that could happen if Sony really thinks that they could be all tough, hot stuff with having Spider-Man is, I mean, like Disney could just release a MCU movie like the same week or the week after, right?
Yeah. And then the other thing that could happen is that Morbius bombs, which
I think it will.
I don't think either of us would be surprised if that happens. And then Sony's like,
Yeah,
So,
and so as much as like, oh, this is Disney flexing their muscles, and like good for Sony for pushing back a bit, but it's like, yeah, but this one makes sense. It's like,
yeah,
we made this movie, we made this. You guys begged us because you couldn't do it.
right.
So this one makes a little bit more sense. It's not necessarily that I'm rooting for this one corporate overlord or the other. But that one last thing that I did want to talk about amongst the Spider-Man thing is that is a sneering reaction amongst people on Twitter. It's like, I can't believe people are taking Disney's side. Yeah, these fans are so dumb. And it's like, yeah, okay, some of it, yeah, some of the reaction is crazy and like I'm gonna boycott buying Far From Home or never watch a Spider-Man movie. Yeah. But the reason why Disney has evangelists like that is because their brand has proven something that consumers can trust. They put out a consistently quality product. That's how you get that fervent fandom, whereas Sony doesn't have any of that because they don't. And so it's like, I get why people are like that. It doesn't always need to be like we need to make fun of these plebes for enjoying these movies. If we're talking about superhero movies, one company does good ones and one company does bad ones, then yes, you're naturally going to root for the one that makes good ones to continue making good ones. It doesn't necessarily make you stupid.
Right.
So that's the Spider-Man news. But there's also some other MCU news that I actually briefly thought about talking about last time because it came off of the San Diego Comic-Con announcements. Yeah. But since then, we've also had the D23 announcement. So we're thinking, let's lump all of that together and just kind of talk briefly about the upcoming slate. Sure. And I just want to know, like, of the announced movies and shows from the MCU, like, what are you most excited about?
Okay, so let's break it into movies first so that we can kind of choose there, and then we'll talk about the shows after that. Yeah. So I think there's basically 5 movies that we have release dates. No, they did announce Black Panther, so now 6. But Black Panther's in 2022. So of the 5 movies that have release dates, I think it's the one I'm most excited for is very easily Thor: Love and Thunder. But there actually is a second place for me that might be a little surprising. I like the announcement and the suggestion of what they're going to be doing with Doctor Strange. It's called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And it seems like they are going to be doing Doctor Strange meets H.P. Lovecraft weirdness. Yeah. And honestly, like, that sounds kind of great.
Yeah. So, like, during our Doctor Strange podcast, I mentioned how, like, I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. It still, ranks a little lower tier. You were even lower than me. But it's like, and then I think we both thought that Infinity War raised our estimation of the character. So I was looking forward to a sequel, but frankly, just the title is like, yep, I'm on board. Yep. Because it's just so batshit silly. And yes, that's exactly what I want. And frankly, it proves, I think, shows their development, what they understand, that you need to throw this stuff at a character that could otherwise come off as stuffy and pompous. Yes. That, he wants to be this, and then they're just going to throw like a bunch of madness at him. Correct. And I'm all for it. And it shows, I think, they're just ready to go. Right. They're not nervous about the Doctor Strange concept anymore. It's the multiverse of madness. What an insane title.
It's great. And as I said, like, it evokes like H.P. Lovecraft, it evokes horror, it evokes just all kinds of, stuff that I don't think the MCU has really delved into that could be really interesting. So
See, like you, I'm also excited for Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, obviously, we would have been excited for the next Thor movie with Taika Waititi anyway. Right. But once I start seeing, like, and when the announcements were coming in on Twitter and we were talking a bit about it, I'm like, oh, look at that. They got Natalie Portman back. That's kind of interesting. And it didn't even click until, and the next thing I'm like, oh my God, they're going to do Jane Foster Thor. Yep. Which is one of my favorite stories to have come out for the past 5 years. It is so fun. Now, there's a little concern that's like, I don't know if Taika is up for the emotional impact of that story, because frankly, that wasn't his strength in the first movie. It was the fun. But, I'd like to find out. Either way, it should be fun. Yes. So, yes, very excited about that. And then the last one, which is it was almost weird. It probably shows the power and how, I guess I'm a big MCU mark, I guess. I mean, I'm doing a podcast as well. But just hearing that, they were making a Blade movie, and I've never even liked Blade. The movies were fine. I've never
with
read
Mahershala Ali.
But just like what they're doing, Mahershala Ali Blade is, and I think maybe the excitement was all the other ones that they've announced. We've kind of known about. We knew they were Shang-Chi. We knew about Eternals. I've loved what I've heard from coming out of the Eternals since then. Just like the first cast and all the different the way they could do it was. Nobody's been talking about Blade. That was just, and partly it's because it's just like Mahershala and Feige had a meeting, and Mahershala's like, "I want to do Blade," and they're like, "Yep, let's do it." Like,
I mean, I think he came to Feige and he was like, "I want to do this," and he's like, "Yeah, we'll make that happen, sure."
Feige since comments like, "Well, that was actually something that was on our wish list to work with him," and Blade was one of the ideas, so it was just perfect. And it's like, I mean, we don't even know when that movie's going to be. It's not on a schedule at all. But just hearing that and just like, yes, that's the only thing I want in the world is Mahershala Ali Blade. Like, that's how, again, because of the brand loyalty. I know it will probably be awesome.
Yeah. I will say the other thing that intrigued me is in the Shang-Chi announcement that the full title is Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which means that we're getting the actual Marvel Mandarin instead of the Trevor Slattery version. Mm-hmm. But if you watch the little video that was attached as a short to Iron Man 3, you will know that Trevor Slattery was kidnapped by the actual Ten Rings at the end of that. So we might be getting more Trevor Slattery.
That's right. And the Ten Rings harkens back all the way to Iron Man. As they were there. So that's wonderfully done. All right, on the TV side, I guess the first question is, are you gonna get Disney Plus?
I don't know. I mean, the price point is actually it's pretty reasonable. So it's the type of thing where I definitely won't get it when it launches, but I will probably be enticed into it at some point.
Yeah. So. I don't know if I get it right when it launches either, because they're just going to have the Mandalorian and stuff. Right?
Pretty much.
That can wait for me. I might watch that show. But with all these Marvel things, and they're actually going to have it in Canada, which is unusual for a streaming service right away.
Sure.
I think they got my money.
Okay. So what are the Marvel TV shows that you're excited about? Because they announced the initial slate, and then they announced some extra ones recently.
Yeah, so first slate, again, a lot of stuff we'd heard about, but then they said that, Hawkeye was not just going to be Jerry Renner, but they were also going to have Kate Bishop, and I'm like, that's it, I'm in. Because, the Hawkeye series by Matt Fraction and David Aja with the two characters is, again, one of my favorite. I'm guessing now the time frame is of the past 10 years. Because it's probably been more than 5, I'd have to do the math. Yeah. So that was just great.
And that's the comic that does the Hawkeye
guy thing bit that we've done yet. Yes. And I mean, follow-ups with that. I've read Kate Bishop series. She's just a really fun, great character. Hopefully that so that was the first one. But then after D23, they're doing Ms. Marvel. Oh my God. Ms. Marvel, I'm so psyched.
So so there are two that really excite me. One is I love the idea of doing the What If series. That just sounds a lot of fun. And I know that unlike most of the other shows, which are short runs, 6 to 8 episodes, I think, the What If, I think they've said is 23. It's a network.
One for every movie. They're going to do an alternate vision for every movie. And that's
right. Which I think is a really cool idea. I'm very interested to see what they do with that. I think that it can be a lot of fun. But then,
what if we ever remember about the Incredible Hulk?
Right. Yeah. But then because I'm a lawyer, I got high hopes for She-Hulk. There are some, I have some lawyer friends who are big She-Hulk fans. And they've showed me some issues where it's mainly her being a lawyer and defending the Marvel universe. And they're hilarious and actually very accurate legally. So I'm very interested to see what they do with that.
And there's no way that's not going to be a courtroom thing. It's just such a perfect genre and way to explain it. I almost figured they came up with let's do a courtroom drama or comedy, hopefully comedy. Yeah. Almost all She-Hulk comedies are comedies, or almost all She-Hulk comics are comedies.
Yeah.
And then they're She-Hulk, yes. yeah, because I mean that's a thing that the Marvel Universe likes to do is play around with genre
Right.
styles, which leads me to another one I'm a little excited about as more things are coming about it. WandaVision is looking really weird.
Yeah, really, really weird. Like the last image we got of it was like 50s Americana type of thing. I'm kind of you turned me on to the what was it? Tom
The
King, is
Vision,
that the guy?
yeah.
Yeah, Vision, his Vision comic, and it kind of reminded me a little bit of that, though obviously Wanda wasn't in that.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of like, yeah, that's gonna be really weird.
Yeah.
Could be
And you
good.
briefly mentioned it. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm really getting excited about these in a way, like, I haven't been that excited about previous Marvel offerings. Obviously, these are going to be much different. Is that they are going to be short, like
Yeah.
6 to 8 episodes, I think, is it?
Yeah.
Which makes this is like basically these are the characters that, we have a movie like story to tell, and we've chosen this format. And I think that could be really strong because obviously that's like the biggest flaw of all comic book TV shows is
Yeah.
that they're way longer than they need to be. So that's another reason why I think I'm going to be paying Disney. Now,
So
interestingly,
the other thing that actually kind of interests me about the TV slate is something that we've kind of touched on a few times, but they look different, and it's a way to kind of experiment, without them putting in the movie budget for it, because obviously, like they might not want to do a courtroom comedy movie.
Mhm.
But as a TV show, they can do that. Or they might not want to do whatever they're going to be doing with WandaVision. But as a TV show, they're like, we can take this chance, So I feel like it's I think a way for them to take some chances that they wouldn't do with one of their theatrical films.
Yeah, and I'm also interested to see the way they use these shows,
Yeah.
because complaints that we've had about like the big Avengers movies or solos that are basically Avenger movies is that a lot of it seems to like hinge, or maybe not a lot, but parts of it hinge on emotional connections that the movies have not had the time to develop. And a
Yeah.
big part of what we mentioned was Wanda and Vision, right?
Yep.
They have this great subplot and all that, and it's all been in the margins. This could be an effective way of filling in the margins as long as they still have strong stories to tell without, that's obviously sometimes the problem with world building is that like it's all marginal stuff. I still haven't seen Solo, for instance. So
Yep.
I think I own a hard copy of it. My mom buys the kids movies sometimes, but yeah, so that could be a way. These moments that just can't fit on these big event movies. If we fill it in that way, it'd be nice. And yeah, my excitement for Ms. Marvel, some people say, oh, but I wanted a movie, and yeah, so I did as well. For one, it should be noted that this doesn't preclude that. They are going to really work on these things being actually in the universe in a way that like that was kind of the idea for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. before they realized that it's just not practical. Full TV
not in
on
a
networks.
23 episode series.
Yeah, TV has to move at a speed that movies just can't do that. And then of course the numbers came in for those series too, and it was like it's really not worth it. Yeah, we get like everybody in America watching our movies and like barely anybody watching these TV shows. But with Ms. Marvel, one of the things I love about the comic is that so much of it is smaller and personal stuff. So I think it might fit better in a TV format where we really get to see kind of like the weekly adventures of Kamala, and it can build up to a big thing at the season finale, but you can have smaller stories in a way that doesn't fit as well. Obviously you get Ant-Man, it's like a smaller scale, no pun intended, but it's still like a bigger thing. So I won't mind seeing her just kind of like develop at a slower level, and again, maybe that will get her ready so that she's in a Captain Marvel 2, and then she's getting her own movie down the road. All right, I think that's
plenty. I think we should probably actually talk about the movie we came here to talk about, which we'll do right after the break.
You haven't told him about his past, have you?
I put him on the path. Logan's mind is still fragile.
Is it? Or are you afraid of losing one of your precious X-Men, old friend?
Eric, what have you done?
I'm sorry, Charles. I couldn't help it.
What have you told Stryker?
Everything. begun. You should have killed me when you had the chance!
All right. Before we get started on talking about the movie, we have a guest here, Christopher. Want to say hi to everyone, Christopher?
Hi.
Christopher, you watched X-Men 2 with us like last week, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes. So he was so charged up by watching X2 that he wanted to play a little game with Matt.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to explain your game, Matt, Christopher?
Yes.
What's the game?
So, I had to do a bunch of different poses, and you have to guess what character from X2 it is.
So he's gonna do some X-Men impressions, and we'll see. We'll see if Matt is good at guessing the impressions. So let me just move the camera there to Christopher.
Okay.
All right, first one.
Okay.
Professor Xavier?
No.
Oh, you gotta make the sound effect. I think that's why.
Magneto?
No.
Here, go to the
Jean
side.
Grey.
It'll be easier to tell. Shoot. Go to the door.
Oh, Cyclops.
There we
Yes.
go. Yeah. See there, I can see like you're thinking you were doing your mental power.
Yeah.
Now we could tell that way totally. That you're-
Yes, that did make it. Yes.
Yes. All right.
Next one.
Okay. That one looks like Jean Grey.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
All right. Next.
Oh, yeah. Bam!
That would be Nightcrawler.
Yes.
All right. Next, we're gonna do 5.
Okay, yeah. Hey, Bob.
That's Wolverine.
All right. The grand finale. This one's tough. Shh. I'll make the sound effects for you.
Looks like Iceman.
That's all right. You're riding on your ice slides. Which, yeah, this movie could have used some ice slides, to tell you the truth.
And it could use Iceman in his ice form.
That's true.
That's
and
true.
wear ice.
Well, we'll have something to look forward to. Maybe the only thing to look forward to for the next movie, because I do believe he has an ice form in the next movie. All right. So did you like watching X2?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So what you're looking at right now? Are you showing the audience your backside? Come here, bud. All right. So that's our little X-Men theater. We'll talk to you next time.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, buddy.
Good night.
Logan, my tolerance for your smoking in the mansion notwithstanding, continue smoking that in here, and you'll spend the rest of your days under the belief that you're a 6-year-old girl.
You do that?
I'd have Jean braid your hair. Welcome back.
And we're back. So let's start off with just talking about X2. You know, I remember before rewatching this movie recently that this is one of the best X-Men movies. And I think it held up in my estimation when I watched it. So, Andy, what did you think?
Yeah, the same. I mean, there'll be another one in the next set of X-Men movies to contend. And then almost like Logan, there's almost something that's hard to compare against all of these. But those are the ones that are in the discussion. And yeah, this one just, it really felt like that's all the stuff that they were building in X-Men started to really coalesce.
Yeah.
And it's kind of started that trend of, for these movies, the sequel can be better because they
Yes.
don't have to spend as much time, you know, introducing us to the characters and the ideas. And luckily for X-Men, they didn't worry too much about origin. Yeah, there was an established team of, you know, a whopping 3, and you know, some people brought into that world. But now it's like, okay, we got all of that. The audience knows who these people are, with the basic idea and the struggle and the kind of the metaphor we're working with. Now let's go out there and tell a story. Yeah, much better than Magneto using magic waves to do things. And I think it works well, and I think it holds up.
I mean, it's funny because thinking back to the story, I don't think it's even the story that necessarily stands out, but it's kind of, one of the things about this movie is that I did not expect to hold up as well as it had was I thought the action sequences in this movie were really fun and like inventive in a, like one of the criticisms of the MCU is that like the action kind of is samey. So it's nice to see like good comic book action that's different,
Yeah.
and it's not to say that it's better, though I would say some sequences are better than, like the average comic book sequence, but it is nice to see like good comic book action that's different. And that, in my opinion, like held up really well. And even though like the big plot points of the story, yeah, it's better than X-Men 1, aren't like, revelatory. The character work is still good. The acting's still good. And the movie has you kind of already kind of bought in and caring about the characters.
Yeah, it's a much more confidently told story than X-Men, which is
I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, it was tentative. We talked about it the whole time. Like nobody knew whether this stuff would work. Both, as a property that was still largely comic book based. They had the cartoon, but that's still fairly niche.
Right.
And superhero movies in general, like the audiences got fairly turned off by it with the fourth Batman movie.
Yep.
So it was very tentative. Their budget was lower. The time that they had to make the movie was very brief. And we thought, as we talked about last time, given those limitations, it turned out a fairly good product that still holds up fairly well. This time they knew, it was a big hit, and they knew they could tell their story. They knew audiences would accept it. I wonder if they were already like, yeah, man, we should have gone for more colorful costumes. They were ready for that ride, but maybe not. And so, it's like they had more money to tell some to use special effects, and you see that as soon as the film begins, like they're going to go for some things.
They open with a serious flex.
Well, this isn't like we can only have Cyclops blast a couple times because we can't afford it.
They still only have Cyclops blast a couple times.
I just don't think it was budgetary this time.
I agree.
But yeah, and it's like, okay, like they, when I'm guessing when they're, now writing the script and plotting it out, it's like, we can have like a big effects beat here, and we can do another thing here, and we're not worried about like the money will be there. We'll have enough time to do it, and audiences will be there. So I think that just shows within the full storytelling. Everybody just feels a little more solid footing in what they're doing.
No, I completely agree. It's a much more confidently told movie, and I think that comes off in almost everything about it. And like you say, like they have the budget, they can do the special effects, they have, they open up with a great sequence that shows that. I mean, it just really kind of blends, not just kind of the action and the acting, but also like like it makes the themes much more explicit in this movie about what they want to be talking about. I mean, like to the point where there is one scene where it's like super on the nose what their new themes are and what the metaphors are, but it, like they probably needed that scene, so I'm not criticizing them for that too much.
Yeah, and I think obviously like they were already pretty excited about the idea of the metaphor that X-Men often stands for, these oppressed outsiders and all of that. And the first movie opens up in a concentration camp, so they're really pushing the button. But I think this one they really get to do it a bit more. It's not just Senator Kelly talking on TV or in front of what's supposed to be the Congress, but not really. Because that didn't fit the color scheme. Like they're really out in the world. The world is coming and closing in on this mutants world. The mutants world. They're facing actual consequences of the fear and hated line that's always of the X-Men. And I think that plays pretty well. A big help is that Brian Cox goes for it. He's not.
Oh yeah.
Frankly, like this franchise often does have good villains, and maybe because they really only have a few, they keep reusing one of the same ones over and over again. But yeah, and I think that works really well, and I think it also gives the X-Men themselves plenty of opportunity to push up against that. And and frankly, like the scene, I think I'm pretty confident we know which one you're talking about, where it's a little obvious. It's have you tried not being a mutant?
Yes.
I think that scene plays pretty well.
No, I do
overall
too.
In there, yeah.
I do too. I just think it's like so, it's just so obvious and on the nose. It's like, oh, they just made the subtext into like flashing, blinking text. But it's important to the movie because it's so. One of the things, to step back a second, that I like about these movies is that they kind of separate out the X-Men into, there's like the field team who are like the teachers and the adults and like the more experienced people. But then they also have like the kids. And there's always a subplot about the kids, and so it's not just about the field team, who's going out there saving the world. It's also about them like teaching the kids, and like protecting them. And so that scene kind of shows what the consequences for the kids are if they're not at the Xavier school. There's there's prejudice out there. There's hatred out there. They get the cops called on them for nothing. And so that type of thing, that's why I think like that scene is so necessary still.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of interesting because like many years after this movie, like I don't know, maybe 4 years ago now, the comics decided to have Iceman come out as gay. So it's kind of this interesting parallel. I wonder if like somebody was watching the movie, it's like, yeah, we're just gonna do that now. We're gonna fully make that come full circle. Yeah, and I think that having those split level storylines actually it brings two things to the X-Men's roots together. So you have like the confident, more exciting superhero stuff that helped it take off once they had the giant size X-Men and Claremont and all that.
Right.
But the roots were teenagers dealing with a world that at least treats them like freaks and outcasts. They weren't Stan and Jack, and then later our writers and artists like Roy Thomas weren't doing as much of the hated and feared. It was more, you guys are a bunch of freaks,
right?
To the point where like one of the early missions was with circus freaks. So that I think gives both of these movies that what it's like to be a young person dealing with these feelings of outsiderness,
right?
While still giving us some people that can do more power stuff. And that's been a lot throughout the X-Men's history. Once the X-Men had just been grown up for a long time, they at least throw Kitty Pryde on the team, and then they have a full New Mutants team. So who knows, maybe a movie one day. So yeah, I think that works really well. In some ways, like the after we get past like the big three, it's the teens that are a little more interesting. It's characters in this film. The big three obviously being Xavier, Magneto, and Wolverine. But yeah, like I think Iceman and Rogue are more interesting than any of the other X-Men.
I think I would agree. I mean, I think the only one that's in contention is Jean Grey.
Yeah.
But I think I still think Rogue is more interesting than that, and I think Iceman's on the same level at least.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and it's because they give them like their own plot, whereas like Jean doesn't really have her own plot. It's like she and Storm have their own mission, but that's over pretty quick, and then they're joining back up.
Yeah, and other than that, she's just kind of like an extension of like how Wolverine feels about her, and then also about like moving her into place to where the story wanted to be next.
Right. But it is kind of interesting how like these movies kind of like subdivide their plot and give their characters, different stuff to do, because you got like the team plot, right? Which is like kind of a half plot, it's there to kind of draw in the world and to, like draw out some like, to give like charge to certain scenes and certain things. They got Wolverine basically has his own plot. He's like with the team for a lot, but he pretty much has his own plot. And then you got like the X-Men with Magneto, and that's like its own plot too, and that kind of then ties into the Professor X stuff and like the main plot. But like if you think about like Wolverine has like very little to do with the main plots, and the teens, they basically don't have a lot to do with the main plots. And so like then the main plot is like everyone else.
Or the main plot is the Wolverine stuff, and everything else is just kind of like, we need to have them do stuff so that it gets the other thing. Because that the movie, is still very much about Wolverine. And part of it,
100%.
Yeah, because that's who they care about most, and like it works still because he is the most interesting and charismatic character.
Yes.
There's, and I mean that like of the movie universe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's the most wildly popular X-Men in any medium and all of that. But like, yeah, Hugh Jackman's performance centered in it, and because they stay through that thread of Wolverine finding out who he is, and his
Yes.
continued evolution from grizzled loner to full team player. They never get to the full point where the comics is of this madman loner who is on every team in the Marvel universe. But like that evolution is carries throughout, and it works because we're actually interested in this guy. We want to find out, and like he's there and talking about he's the art teacher, and getting Iceman to make his beers cold. Yeah, that's great character
Right.
work. I love everything about Wolverine, and because he's so strong, it makes the movie work. Even though they 2 movies in, they still don't give a crap about most of the characters that are.
Yes. But I mean, I guess what I'm saying is like, it's if you were to describe the main plot, you wouldn't necessarily describe what Wolverine's doing the entire movie, even though he is by far owning the most screen time. But on the other hand, like if you look at like the actual like challenging villains in this movie, the only one that like that any of them have to overcome is Wolverine's is like basically personal villain in this one. Whereas like the other ones, it's more like we have to work as a team to kind of think through this and beat.
Yeah. And it's almost just like it's coincidental, right? Because like
Right.
the driving action of the story isn't about Wolverine at all, which is actually a nice parallel to the first movie, where they weren't after Wolverine. They didn't even know he was there.
Yeah.
It's the same thing here. Stryker is after mutantdom. He's after Xavier.
Yep.
He knows about the school, and it's just like I'm like, the heck you doing here, Wolverine? So so yes, I think from the overall perspective of X-Men battling like the personification of the discrimination that they feel, it's not really about Wolverine, and that makes sense in some ways because like this whole world against us thing is actually pretty new to Wolverine too. It wasn't really core to his character until the end when they make it that it's all about him holding the forked tongue kid.
But I did like also I did like how damn it, I lost my thought while you were talking. Man, I hate when that happens. Anyway, but no, I agree. Yeah, Wolverine is not like the center of this universe. He's incidental to like a lot of the driving action. Oh, I remembered my point. I liked how they how like everyone keeps commenting like you even took in the Wolverine, like he's a beast, like why did you do that? Because it does kind of speak to what both Professor X's goals are, what his ideals are, but also that like that's how much of an outsider he is, that everyone else, like even the bad guys, are like, dude, we don't associate with him.
Yes, he's an outsider among outsiders, and oh god, isn't that so cool? Oh my god, Wolverine's so cool. Which actually brings us into, I think, the next big thing we discuss, which is, I think, is what you got it at this a bit, is what makes this movie good, is that it does some really great scenes.
Yeah, I mean, should we just go into like our favorite sequences?
Yeah, we don't need a break. Let's do it because I mean, I think the story works well and the acting is still there and the themes, but really, X2 might be the best because it's got so many of the best sequences.
Totally. Okay. So what's your favorite? Because I think we both don't want to talk about one, but I think our backup one might also be the same one. So I want to hear yours.
Well, let's just get out of the way. The best sequence in the film is Nightcrawler invading the White House.
100% true. It is awesome. It kicks ass. It is just like it's the type of thing where it's super confident, like you said, like, and it's, and I joked it was just them flexing right away, but it's like, in the first movie, I talked about how they chose mutants who they can show their powers easily. This mutant has a very simple power to show, but it ain't easy to show it. And yet they do it so awesome. And like, it's well coordinated. It's well like blocked, it's like if you take like a martial arts movie and you look at like what makes a great martial arts movie, it's like the blocking, the staging, the way they like shoot the action. And like all of that was true in this too. Plus you had a guy that was disappearing and teleporting around.
Yeah, and it shows like how like outmatched humans are. That like
Yeah.
the mutant world probably not that big a deal, but he could just take out like some of the best trained bodyguards in the entire world, because that's what it's like. That's humanity versus these mutants. So from that, but yeah, it's just freaking cool. Like it still stands today as one of the best superhero
100%.
action sequences. It can hold up. Like you can put it right along anything that Marvel's done through the Evolution or any other of the companies. So
100%.
yeah, it's the best scene. It's not the one that most excites me though. But I mean,
Okay.
it kicks off the movie so well, and you're like,
Yeah.
man, that's pretty awesome. For me, it's the invasion of the school.
Oh, okay. So that was my third. So
Okay.
so I do get to talk about my second. So you go.
It's because it's, for one, it sets off like you get fun cameos. When Colossus shows that he's Colossus is a very exciting moment. But then the best part of it is you let Wolverine cut loose.
Yes.
But Wolverine finally gets to be something more than just a guy who was thrown into a truck by a wrestler, or
Yes.
slow-mo cuts the tip off of the Statue of Liberty or something, or and he had the big fight with Mystique. But no, this is Wolverine berserker rage, going crazy on all these baddies, these faceless bad guys, and it's just so awesome. He's just going through the whole thing, and it's just like, yes, cut them all down. I don't care that my kids are watching. Isn't it cool watching this guy stab?
He literally impales people and then is carrying them on his claws as he runs at other guys. And you just realize he does not give a damn about the normal hero things. Like, this is not I don't kill, I'm not violent. No, this is Wolverine. He kills everyone.
And just like how they just nailed it with his opening scene with the fight, and how the sounds were there, and he recovers.
Yep.
He had the claws. That was in the first one. Made it. This is again. Oh my God! They just had him stab a guy right away. Like that's what Wolverine would do, and that's why it was so exciting. It's just like this is just a perfect use of the character, and then you mix in the other moments, and Iceman gets his hero moment and all of that, but it's just like Wolverine cutting loose on a bunch of bad guys. It's like he's invading the Hellfire Club, a reference that comic readers would know.
Okay.
So that's always my favorite to watch, because it's just like we're finally, because you don't get even that in the cartoon. Wolverine only gets to cut loose on Sentinels because they really aren't allowed.
Which is why they use the Sentinel so often.
Otherwise, I don't know if they're allowed to punch anybody in that show. But so here, no, it's not even Sentinels. It's not robots. Those are human beings, and they dead because Wolverine went nuts on them.
Yeah. No. So I mean, that was I mean, and that's the thing. Like, in my opinion, that's like the third best action moment.
Yeah, so I've talked to the amazing Nightcrawler, the amazing Wolverine, versus the bad guys, and now you got something else.
Yeah. So my favorite sequence, and it's a short one, but it is to me the most iconic sequences from these movies: Magneto's escape.
I was just about. It's got to be Magneto's escape, because that's right there. Like, look, go.
First of all, it has the great action villain, 80s action villain starting line of "too much iron in the blood," which is one of those really cheesy, but also oh shit, this stuff's about to get real.
And Magneto does that throughout. He's always got these bitchy lines for people, and they're perfect.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, Ian McKellen always delivers them great. He has the right level of camp when he delivers them. But yeah, and then it's just all it is. You see is just three ball bearings, and just everything he's able to do with them is awesome, and it just shows you just how absurdly powerful Magneto is when he flexes, because it's not just Magneto's not just I can lift all the metal. It's he can control it, he can shape it, he rides the metal out, and him
this too. It is so great.
Him riding the metal sphere out is to me the iconic shot from the X-Men movies.
And he doesn't just ride it, he gets the other two still spinning around him, because he realizes he's the guy that had the
and then he sends him through the thing, and he breaks out, and then they cut, and that's it. That's the end of it. And it's but man, that is just so awesome, and it's so good, and it's as I said, it's just a great image. It's a great visualization of the power, and it is just so much fun. Where you just see this villain just flexing, and showing everything he can do.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately that's why this movie succeeds, is that, they're ready to just do the things that you want to see. And it's like,
Yes.
oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And, I mean, we're simple folk when it comes to this stuff. Keep giving us awesome stuff that isn't too stupid, just the right level of stupid. And
Right.
yeah, you've made us a good comic book movie. Thank you. Let's come again for another one.
But
Because,
I mean,
yeah, I think,
and right, and then I think the other reason it succeeds is because I think they think about the characters, they think about the powers, and then they think, what's the most fun way to depict these on screen? How can we do something with these that's not just like, oh, we have a character here, he does something. And maybe that's the reason why like they don't really like Cyclops, because his power like is just like the one thing, and there's no like variation to it. There's no creativity you can really have with it, or that they had with it at least.
yes, clearly said by a man who hasn't seen Cyclops, use his power to like clear a pool table, because yes, a part of his mutation is that he can see all the geometry. That's generally how you make it fun, is have him bounce like Captain America and his shield.
Okay,
That's what you
sure.
do. Yeah.
Right, but they obviously didn't think about that. So it's just like I touch my visor, beam shoots out. That's it. And so for them, like they could not. I think they could not think of a way to make his power interesting. But they got at what like makes Wolverine interesting. They found ways to like show how fun Magneto's powers can be, how fun Nightcrawler's powers could be, and and they just and I think because they have a big team, if they couldn't find a way to make your power interesting, they would use you, but they wouldn't like revolve a sequence around you type of thing.
Yeah, even with
And
Professor X, they have the thing, which I don't know if really makes a full lot of sense. How he just freezes time. Obviously, he's reaching into people's brains and making them
Right.
stop, which I think is a good little hack for non-visual power. I
Sure.
don't know if it always makes sense. Like some of those things, I don't know if you need full brain power to,
right.
move.
Yeah, well,
Gravity is
it's
also a thing, but it
yeah,
works.
it's funny because I saw that and I went, wait, Professor X can stop like time and people in his tracks. And then I mentioned to you that I was reading an old X-Men comic because I saw like beginning of Claremont's run was like available through the library, and there's a scene where he does exactly that. And I was like, oh, okay, so that was apparently a thing he could do. So who knows?
On that note, I think it works well in the museum. I don't know if it works as well when it's also get to like just flashed in to the Oval Office. It's like, how does that work? Still, time is passing at the normal rate. The president should see them, open a door. But anyway, movies, visuals, it's fine. But yeah, I think actually what's important to note is not only are they finding cool ways to use the powers, is that especially like with Magneto and Wolverine, maybe a little less so for Nightcrawler for story reasons, they feel like character driven as well. These are moments that like inform about the character and seem like a thing that the characters do. I'd say not for Nightcrawler because he's being brainwashed. So
right. But then his later uses of the power is very character driven. You see him jump out of the plane, jump back in when Rogue goes out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one of the big things at the end is he's like, well, I can only go line of sight, and he has to go without line of sight. Honestly, Nightcrawler gets more to do in this movie than most of the people that were in the first movie.
Oh, easily. And frankly, his inclusion in the film is a continuation of we now have confidence in budget, because it sounds like they actually did have plans to have Nightcrawler and Beast in the original movie, and they're just like, that's too expensive, we're not doing that.
Meanwhile, they keep teasing Beast in the background, only it's the non-Kelsey Grammer Hank McCoy. So
soon enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it's just like that fact that it like tells us stuff about the characters and feels right for the characters is important to point out now, because I don't believe that necessarily to be true of some of the other scenes we're going to get from this franchise in the future.
Yes.
They might have some interesting stuff to do with powers, but in the end you're like, you just did that to show off. Right. I feel like this movie incorporates them more into the character and the story. So we talked about the best things we liked about it. You got any flaws you want to talk about?
I mean, the flaws are kind of the same as from the first movie. They just don't use the full team that well. But honestly, like in this one, I don't care as much because it doesn't lean on the full team, because it doesn't lean on the people they don't use as well as much. It's they just kind of refocus the story around the people they do want to use and that they can use well,
Yeah, I'd say for this story, it doesn't matter. The problem is there's never going to be another one.
Yeah.
So it just turns out that you just had a bunch of wasted characters, and that's unfortunate.
Which is truth. Yes.
Because like look at what Marvel's done, right? Like I would say we care more about like Falcon than we do about any of like non like Wolverine, Professor X, Rogue, maybe X-Men.
Yeah.
You know, like they find ways to make us care about characters in a way that this franchise never did. And yeah, you can forgive it in this one because it's like, yeah, they told a fairly good and compact story, but it's just like they never got a chance to do it with those characters because of what's going to come.
And then when they try again, it's, you know, it's not the same.
No. I'd say the biggest flaw is like when you stop and think about the climax, it just falls apart.
Oh yeah.
Like, well, it's not good enough for Patrick Stewart to very comfortably and paternally tell us that she made a choice. It makes no sense that she got out of that goddamn plane to die. The only reason why she got out of that plane is so that you could kill her, because the most famous X-Men story begins with her dead.
Yes.
And that's the only reason. And like, you gotta do better than that. Like, you can still kill her, okay? I mean, I kind of wish you didn't because of the way that they tried to resolve that story without you. But you got to do more than, like, you got to explain why she had to get out of that plane. Yeah, maybe she starts to do it and the plane starts shaking apart. Who knows?
Sure.
You should probably explain why the mutant who can change liquid water into solid water doesn't take a crack at it.
Yep.
This should probably happen. Because that's the thing. It's like, the only reason why this threat of all of this water is going to kill us exists at all is so that they can kill Jean Grey.
Yes.
And that's where they were working from. And then they didn't take a whole lot of time, filling in the pieces there. Like, well, we got to have her dead at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
What do we got? What's here? Because it's like you have an Iceman. It's a mental-based power. She's not actually physically holding it up. We saw her, like disrupt planes and stuff with her mind. I think she could do this enough. Also, she lifts the plane and turns all of the power on.
I was gonna say, like, why can't she just like lift the plane or turn the power on while she's in it?
Let the water go. You don't need just do the plane thing. Don't hold it back at all.
Yep.
How about that?
Yep.
So that's a problem, that just like, while it's happening, you can be caught up in a bit of the emotion or whatever. I think Marsden does a decent job with what he's given there, given the constraints of A, he cannot act with his eyes, and B, no one gives a fuck about him.
But he's in the movie for 5 minutes.
Yeah. But he tries to show that this is like a very emotional moment, because that's what happened in the original X-Men comics.
Sure.
She sacrificed herself. Cyclops tries to stop her. And even like, and moreover, how like all they're thinking about is we got to have her dead so that she'll rise like a phoenix. I don't understand how getting drowned makes you the phoenix in a later movie. Like,
I feel like it's actually supposed to be happening during this movie. Like, there is something up with her during this movie, and I feel like that's supposed to be like the beginning of her phoenixing.
Yeah, they absolutely have her like powering up. Man, I still feel some weird effects from the Magneto's machine.
Right.
No, again, that doesn't explain why she needed to die in order to become this powerful character. So it's like drowning doesn't get you there. She should have like a big explosion with chemicals or something. But all they were focused on was killing her. And thus, it kind of falls apart at the end. I also don't know if they did Magneto a great service by having the heel turn with the climax.
I mean, I don't think it's even that. I mean, I guess it's like, but it's a heel turn that's within character for him.
It is within character. I think the character would have gone in more interesting directions without it. And it's like also the third movie would have been more free to tell a more coherent story without it.
Yeah.
The beauty of Magneto as a character, and the later movies will examine this a bit, is that he isn't just a mustache twirling villain. He has
he's
motivations for it. He's trying to achieve this goal, and at the end he's like, I'm just gonna kill like 6.5 billion people. Frankly, it's like, I think you're also gonna kill all of the mutants then, because it's hard to run a global society with almost the entire population dead.
Yep. I
Even
mean, that
Thanos
is
only wanted to kill half.
that is true. That is true. Um, but I do like the temptation of Pyro in the movie.
Yeah.
I thought that was well done. And so like I like that bit. How you could see how people would be lured to Magneto's point of view, and yeah.
Yeah, I think Magneto works better, and I think that, it's in the margins of these first two movies where it's like he's a bad guy who has a point, and you can see why he's doing it this way.
Yes.
Like even in the first X-Men movie, he doesn't believe his actions will kill all of those world leaders.
Right.
He doesn't care that it's going to kill Rogue. Like he's still not a good guy, but just by having it switch, it's like I don't think the story needed that, other than to reinforce. Okay, well Magneto's our villain again. And
Right.
to give Nightcrawler a hero moment to rescue Professor Xavier, and I think that second thing could be accomplished a different way. I think you can end the movie with Jean Grey dead in a different way, but I don't feel like they had their goals and they didn't care as much whether it made it all the way there. So I think that's just the flaw, that especially like when you're done or if you watched it multiple times like I have, starts to stand out a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So do you think that the reason why they decided to use Nightcrawler in this movie was because they knew they were going to kill Jean Grey and they decided they had to have a Catholic character give last rites?
I hope not, because this is the movie really ran with Nightcrawler's Catholicism, and then I think it was maybe happening in the comics at the same time.
Yeah.
He is so less fun when you're focusing on that, and I feel like it's often done by people who are not Catholic themselves. They're like, oh, Catholics, they're all these weird mystics of the world. We got this. It's like most Catholics are like, I'll go on Easter and Christmas. So it's just like, I think they did it because Nightcrawler is super awesome. And
I mean, I think so too. But then I think they realized, oh, hey, we got a Catholic character here. We can do last rites.
But anyway,
so go on.
Quickly, I was just wondering, because we kind of been hinting at it. The movie's building a nice little universe here. Second movie, right? We're moving along. It's chugging along. This is going to be great. It's going to come to a screeching halt because Bryan Singer moves on from the movie, and we don't need to talk about him like he's some great visionary. It's just other than this otherwise probably crappy person made two pretty good movies and seemed to probably have some ideas of where the next ones were going to go.
Yep.
I feel like the franchise at this exact moment, we leave it a little sloppily getting there, but is in a pretty good spot. The X-Men at the end have their big hero pose. They've come to some kind of understanding, or at least statement of purpose with the president. There are more than 3 of them now. We lost one, but gained 3. It's like, this is really good. We're in a great spot. Oh, they're setting up the greatest X-Men story of all time. What a squandered potential.
It really is. It's such a shame. And it's like, even when they reboot the series, I like those movies. I don't, like, even as great as the core cast of that is, I feel like I wish we had seen more of this team.
Yeah. And that's kind of the big takeaway I have after watching these first two, which I have, first time in a long time. It's like the first class fun, buoyed by 2 strong performances. Days of Futures Past might even be better than this because they go bigger and it's a really interesting story. But the
reason I love that is because it ties into these movies too. So we see a lot of these characters again.
Yeah, and for it's Hugh Jackman back doing his thing, right?
Right.
I don't love any of them the way that I was starting to feel here, and that that is with the fact that my favorite character is ignored 2 movies in a row. Storm is really much, but there's still there's something here where it's if they had lived in this world and just gone from there, this could have been great.
Yeah,
that's the feeling after X2 is oh man, there's going to be a great movie after this, to the point where I went and saw The Last Stand when I was on vacation in Rome.
Oh my God.
And that conversation will be to be continued when we our next podcast. But it's just this was a good start.
Potential.
Yeah, this was a good start, and plenty of room to grow, as we've talked about.
Yeah.
Okay, now you've gotten Wolverine. He's completely integrated into the team. You got the idea. We got more of a team. You've teased out other potential characters and Kitty and Colossus and all of that. All right, let's go. And then.
Yeah. So let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll do trivia. And then after that, we'll come back with talking about actual comics.
My God.
All right, we're back, and before we get into everybody's favorite segment of me talking about comic books, we thought we'd do a little bit of trivia this week. And this time, Alex promises us that people watching and listening to this show might actually be able to answer some of these questions, unlike last week. All right, is that true?
Your questions.
We'll find out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Who goes first?
Who goes first?
Why did Mom get rid of it? I'll just.
No, I guess now you don't even know your crooked system.
Matt.
So it must be me.
Okay.
Winner. Yeah, the reigning title holder.
How many votive candles were lit in Nightcrawler's church?
Okay,
Near
so
the altar.
clearly
This one was definitely intended for you, so the next one's going to be pretty easy. I'm going to go with 7.
Wrong. 1.
Okay.
All right. I guess he did not follow my instructions, although I suppose at least it was something from the movie.
It was.
Yes.
All
That
right.
was definitely something from the movie.
I'll change it to make it even more complicated. This is
This one would be for me.
Yeah. What is William Stryker's kid's name?
What is William Stryker's kid's name? It is Jason.
Correct.
Did you know that, Matt?
I didn't. I had forgotten it.
Yeah.
I forgot.
I got a memory like Swiss cheese. So
This one is for
Well, it should be for Matt. That's kind of how it
you.
works.
okay.
What are the limitations of Nightcrawler's teleporting powers?
He can only teleport to where he can see, except for the one time in the movie, obviously, when he can't see where he teleports to. But that's what he says the limitations are.
Yes, it's line of sight teleportation. You obviously could. There's just a teleport somewhere you can't see. There's just a very
have been
inherent
to
danger
Right.
involved, and
Yes.
that he could materialize in the middle of something. All right, we are title 1.
Yeah. And this one. What is the original name of the X-Men's plane in what is the original name of the X-Men's plane?
They call it the Blackbird. Do I need the initials and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, crud. It's an XR71?
Almost.
XR70?
No.
No.
XR72.
Unless it's XS and I got the wrong letter.
I'll just give you a hint. You do, but since you both tried, SR.
SR.
I guess X
71.
would have been a little bit too much on the nose.
Yeah.
Also, because it's a real plane. The SR-71 Blackbird actually existed in the real world.
Yeah.
Right. It's a vertical takeoff and landing
And
plane.
guess what the funny thing is? So you know that comic that when the Blackbird turned into Lockheed?
Yeah, I do. Matt
But-
does not.
But it's that the actual name is Lockheed SR.
Yes, the Lockheed Martin corporation created the Blackbird.
Got it.
One of the few non-evil things.
So are you tired?
I'm going to take a half point for that, but I don't know.
Sure, fine. 1.5 to 1. Sure.
Whatever. It's all about this last question right here. Worth all the many
This
points
is
that
a-
needs to be
this
for
is-
somebody to win.
This is one that you have to guess quick or you lose it.
Okay.
Okay.
What is Banshee's daughter name?
Her code name is Siren, and her real name is Teresa. Originally Teresa O'Rourke, because she did not know that Sean Cassidy was her father. and then she went by Tricia Cassidy. He asks because she's actually makes a cameo in the film, and I believe the credits credit her as that name. She's the redheaded girl who screams really loud.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you watching the movies, or are you just remembering all the comic book things I've read to you?
Both.
A little bit of both. All right, yeah.
Yeah.
Now you watch it. Yeah, you've seen this one a couple times, but I think it was a while ago when you first saw these two. So,
Yeah.
How do you feel about these older ones? Because you watched the more recent ones over and over again.
T-shirts passed.
You watched that a lot. But how do you feel about X2? Was it pretty good?
Yeah.
That's good. You got warm feelings about the cast and the movie and all that.
I only like Colossus.
You're like, well, I mean, you like Wolverine, right? Okay, because for the longest time, Hugh Jackman is literally the only actor in the world to you.
It's Wolverine and Nightcrawler.
Well, I asked
Nightcrawler
because
gets dark.
it's going to be pretty exciting that you get to watch X-Men: The Last Stand for the first time ever coming up, because I never let you watch it before because I never wanted to watch it again. And now, yes, that's what's next, everybody. Feel the excitement. I do worry a little that if you were like, that was awesome, then I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
I thought Aquaman was awesome.
And, a lot of people liked Aquaman.
What was
It
a
was
good
alright.
movie? What was a bad movie that I liked?
But like both Ghost Rider movies, I think. Although I think
I like the first one more.
yeah, the
but-
second one mostly just about the fire pea. Have you seen Aquaman?
I have not. No.
Oh, don't worry, we're not covering it on the podcast.
No.
All right, Alex. Thank you. And next week, pay attention to the movie a bit,
Okay.
and then we'll
Talking to me or him?
and then he'll ask what does the Juggernaut say to Kitty, and we'll both know.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Juggernaut's in this movie?
Yeah. So
I thought he was only in the Deadpool.
Oh,
I
wow.
watched Deadpool.
Yeah.
You watched Deadpool? Wow.
Well, we watched the PG-13 cut.
Got it.
Which
got it.
maybe I might make you watch too for this project, and then we can have that discussion about.
Okay.
All right. So when we come back, time for X-Pert recommendations. Bye, Alex.
Bye.
So, when did you first know you were
A mutant?
But you cut that out.
You have to understand, we thought Bobby was going to a school for the gifted.
Bobby is gifted.
We know that. We just didn't realize
We
he was...
still love you, Bobby. It's just this mutant problem is a little
What mutant problem?
complicated.
What exactly are you Professor of, Mr. Logan?
Art.
All right, and we're back, and we're here for our X-Men special segment, X-Pert Recommendations. So, Andy, what do you got for us this week?
So this week, the movie has a bit of basis in the comics. The story of X2 is influenced, at least by another story. To call it adapted is probably a little strong. But yeah, that's the one I'll be talking about this week, which is X-Men God Loves, Man Kills. This is a graphic novel published in 1982, and I'm actually have the year right this time, unlike last time when I kept saying 2001, when I meant 2011. That's slightly different. And what I say about graphic novel is Marvel had this series called Marvel Graphic Novels where they were publishing things in a prestige format, about magazine sized, in the hopes to get them into different shops to reach different audiences. And they would do different ones, I think kind of like a bi-monthly type schedule. So there was like the death of Captain Marvel, the first guy. New Mutants debuted there, things like that. They were not under the comics books code, so that allowed them to tell a bit more mature stories. And so
Were they like in normal continuity?
No, and that's the thing. So this this book was designed to be an entry point. If you don't know about the X-Men, you're not a regular X-Men buyer. But for some reason you're a regular Marvel graphic novels buyer, or you're in a shop that will have these, you could check that out and get a sense of what the X-Men were like. So it's not an origin at all. It's in media res that things, the X-Men have existed in this lineup. But for the longest time, there was actually debate whether it was canon or not. It's since been, brought into the fold, in large part because it is recognized as one of the greatest X-Men stories of all time.
Okay.
If you get like fans to read it, it'd be unusual if it's not in their top 5.
Okay.
So it was written by Chris Claremont, because everything for like 20 years were written by Chris Claremont. And
Right. And I was going to say 82 was right in like the middle of that run.
yeah.
So
The illustrator is Brent Eric Anderson, who never did any other X-Men work, but he adds a style that makes it feel a little bit more naturalistic than the comic books of the time, which, I'm not saying makes it better. It gives it a different feel, and really fits with the tone and the story of the book, which is basically the X-Men combating their biggest foe, which is prejudice in general.
Got it.
So in this story, William Stryker is a reverend, kind
Okay.
of a Billy Graham type figure. So he's a TV evangelist, and he's building up his church. Largely, and a big part of his message now is anti-mutant hysteria. So he
Okay.
is, and it's starting to turn the tide of America, along with a few other things. 1 year previous was Days of Futures Past. This is really the era when Claremont is really bringing that hated and feared right to the forefront. Before that, it was a lot of superhero stories, a lot of space stories. Now they're really focused on, the world is trying to really hates mutants and is trying to do something about it. So Evangelist Stryker is spreading this message of hate, all the while has superpowered soldiers, or not superpowered, but well supplied soldiers to go in and attack the X-Men in their home, capture Professor X, all for a power plan to eradicate mutants all over, in the lead up to his big Madison Square Garden televised performance. So that it gives the X-Men something to fight and punch, these other soldiers. Right. But ultimately, what they're really combating against is hatred itself. So it really does well with the theme of the X-Men, that makes it that story, that hook, that has made it a little different from other superhero stories. They team up with Magneto in this story because Magneto, it fits into Magneto's mission. This man is making life worse for mutants.
Right.
It opens with the people working for Stryker hunting down these small children, and leaving their bodies graphically disposed of, and as a warning to all, which I didn't realize when I started reading this to my 10-year-old child. I was like, maybe I should have previewed this one, but
Oh well.
Sometimes it's nice to read things that are maybe a little bit above their level together, because then it gives you time to discuss things, and there are greater sins in the world than to introduce the horrors of racism in a controlled environment, and to teach your child that don't be this.
Right.
So 82 set the tone for the X-Men, but do you think maybe, just maybe, in 2019, a message of heroes battling intolerance in a world that uses things like demagoguery and religion to stir up feelings against an other and a minority people? Do you feel like that would have any resonance nowadays?
No, I cannot imagine any reason why that story would have resonance nowadays. Honestly, I think it's a kind of a story that would have resonance a lot of days.
Yeah, I mean yes. They didn't get rid of it, apparently. Oh no, it still exists. Bigotry.
Yes.
I thought that was all about World War II.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, okay. So this is like so as you said, this is a standalone graphic novel. It has similar plot lines. They team up with Magneto. Is Xavier kidnapped as well? Yeah.
And then a machine that's going to use his powers to destroy all mutants, and then brainwash him into thinking he's doing something else. So the movie does take a lot of the broad strokes, turning him into a soldier versus a reverend, and also all these side quests of Wolverine.
And so it was made in 82, so I'm guessing it's kind of a lot of the that second new X-Men team of Wolverine and Colossus and Nightcrawler and Storm,
Cyclops and Kitty Pryde would be
Okay.
the full roster, and that's actually what makes it a little difficult in continuity, because really, like, Cyclops left right around this time before Kitty joined, so they kind of, you just jam it in there right after Dark Phoenix. So yeah, that's a classic X-Men roster.
Yes.
And yeah, why I say it's designed for a jump on is, like, yeah, the X-Men have been a team. They have all of their stuff, all of their members, but they will explain to you as they go who these people are, what the X-Men are. This. So if you've never read an X-Men comic, last week, obviously, I recommended one that is a very, like, an intro to the X-Men. It's the beginning of the X-Men. This works well, like, if you want to kind of get the sense of what, like, the Claremont era of X-Men, they're, one of their biggest classic rosters. This is a good place to jump in, because it is written in the hopes that you are doing so.
Okay. And you said it was a part of a series, Marvel graphic novels.
So you're not going to find this print. I just picked up a copy at a comic convention last year.
Okay.
I think it's like a 4th or 5th reprinting of it. So even there, it wasn't super cheap, but yeah, the first printing is probably hundreds of dollars. However, since it is one of the great X-Men stories ever, they keep reprinting it. You'll find, other trades that look a little different, that are comic book sized as opposed to magazine sized, or, any digital format you want, Comixology, Marvel Unlimited, that sort of thing.
Right.
And so, or the library, possibly.
Right. And so was the and so that series, it wasn't just like X-Men, that was like all different types of Marvel heroes they were
including
doing.
Like people you'd never heard of, like the Star Slammers or something. Star-Lord, Warlord of Mars, basically. So basically Star-Lord being John Carter, which I think what Star-Lord kind of basically is. I mean, in the sense that John Carter is the archetypical hero that like Luke Skywalker and such are. So yeah, they just kind of did that. They did like Dazzler the movie, which is terrible, but helped further push the idea that mutants really are not liked in this world. So yeah, they would just kind of, it would be a way for them to give some reign to a creative team, like, put out this interesting story without the normal constraints of time, and again, not published by the Comics Code Authority. It doesn't have that logo on there, which isn't to say it's extra smutty or all that violent, but they do a little bit more.
Got it. And I mean, this one's obviously written by Claremont because he's writing all the X-Men at this time. Is this a chance for other people to write heroes that they weren't writing, or would they still be giving it to the same person?
In general, yeah. He also writes the New Mutants one because it wasn't supposed to be in the graphic novel, and they're like, "Oh God, we don't have a graphic novel number 7. Can you, instead of that being New Mutants number 1, you make it bigger?" But other than that, yeah, it would be, some of their bigger artists or creators and all of that telling stories. And I'll admit, I've read like 3 of the novel series, because some of them, like, I ain't never heard of the Wolfpack. I don't know this stuff, but yeah, it was really Marvel's way of trying to kind of be more into like a more adult market.
Got it.
In the 80s, it's there were no, the independent scene was very independent. There wasn't, there was no Image. I don't think Vertigo existed quite yet. So it's just kind of like Harvey Crumb and stuff out there. So yeah, this is their way of like, hey, we can do grown-up stuff too.
Yeah,
we'll make it.
No, Vertigo was founded in '93, so not even close.
For real?
That's what it says.
I guess Watchmen wasn't a Vertigo title. It was just DC. You just think of it that way.
Yeah. But
deep nerd stuff there, guys.
Yeah. Sorry, okay. I don't know what else to ask about this.
Yeah, so just real quick, the season 1 that I recommended last week, a fun idea of X-Men as teen heroes and all this. This, if you really kind of like the themes of X2, the idea of X-Men battling against prejudice and all of that, that's a recurring theme throughout. But this is probably the easiest, most digestible way of getting a story like that, and also probably the very best, or at least of that.
Okay, cool.
All right,
Yeah.
so we pretty much, everybody knows what we're talking about next. Next time, X-Men: The Last Stand.
Yeah.
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 Obviously, I'm not looking forward to watching it again. As I said, I haven't even shown it to my son when I was showing him the other X-Men movies. I don't believe I've watched it since theaters. That said, it is one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this project at all, because for years I have wanted a platform in which to share my feelings about X-Men: The Last Stand. Now look, who knows? Maybe I'll rewatch it and feel differently. I don't, at the very least, I'll still share what my feelings were, because I have had feelings about this movie since that time.
Yeah.
And the next time we record, they will be getting out. You might want to adjust your volumes just a bit. We'll see.
Yeah. Turn that volume down.
So when that comes out, obviously you can subscribe various podcast ways. You can follow on the website of infinitystonepodcast.wordpress.com. Leave us comments. We always read them. You can watch on YouTube and follow us on Twitter and all that stuff. Anything else, Matt?
That's it.
All right, let's end this thing.